Welcome to Open Your Reality, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very special guest on today. His name is Howdy Mikowski, and he is going to be talking about a subject that some of you are going to love, some of you may not vibe with, but it's going to be very interesting. Welcome to the show, Howdy.
Oh, thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me on. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. Like I was saying earlier, you've got a lot of really good stuff on your channel. So it's going to be interesting to see how we go through this material.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot that you have to say. So this might be the first of a couple of interviews. Someone turned me on to you. One of my viewers said, you got to get Howdy Mikowski on your channel. And I checked out your material. I fell in love with it, even though I watched just several videos. I like that you're very clear in what you say, and it's not obfuscated with a lot of jargon. You sent me your book. I'm sorry, please tell our audience the name of your book, please.
The new book is called Exit the Cave, Ending the Reincarnation Trap, and it's the first book of a 2-book series. Hopefully I'll get a second one done next year to go deeper into it.
Is this the first book that you've written, or have you written before?
No, I've written a few long ago, but the first on sort of these subjects, that would be The Power of Then from about 2005 on ancient Egypt and alchemy and the Maya. Then it was Falling for Truth, which was surrounding my near-death experience in 2005. Then I wrote Exposing the Expositions on the World's Fairs in the 1800s.
Okay, and so when was that World Fair book published?
That was 2019, so literally a month before all the insanity started.
Okay. All right. So it's been 3 years, and you've put out this latest book. When did you release this latest book? Was it just like early this year?
Like September. I got the feeling that I'd wanted to now write a book on Plato's Cave. That was where it originally started back in like May or March or April. And slowly as I began that research, I started going back to things I'd studied 20 years ago, which was this idea of what is our reality really? And are we here is this thing set up in a place to help us, or is this thing set up in a way to trap us? And that's where the research began to go through. Yeah.
Yeah, and can you just give us, now we're going to get into this because you have some very, very interesting ideas about reality, about how this could be a soul trap, a la David Icke's new book, which is called The Trap, which I think he put out in the same month you did, September. I wanted to ask you, before we get into that, what is your background? You sound like you have an American accent, but you live in Europe?
I'm Canadian, originally by birth, moved to Norway like 9 years ago. So I've been over in Scandinavia for a while. I was basically a hockey player for a lot of my life, then became a stand-up comedian, went through a ton of, we'll call them difficult. I don't want to necessarily say trauma. They were trauma. They were trauma and experience that people have gone through way worse than me. But it was through those traumas that opened the doorways to eventually writing my book on ancient Egypt, meeting the medicine men that I had time to train with in Canada, with a Korean monk, with several Qigong doctors from China. And that was my beginning 20 years ago into studying reality.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does a hockey player who's dabbling with comedy all of a sudden go into such serious subjects? And you said it was a trauma. Do you want to expound a little bit on that, or is it something that you don't talk about on your channel?
It's fine. Yeah, I was in the midst of a massive depression. I had my father had stolen all my money from me right at the end of university, so I had this massive change in trust, you might say, because it was almost impossible. I did finish my university degree. I got a history degree, but it was very difficult to finish it. Then just as I finished university, my ex-girlfriend was murdered. And so once that kind of hit me and I realized reality doesn't work the way you're supposed to, or reality doesn't do the way it's supposed to do. You have this structure of go to school, do this, get a job, get married, go have kids, do this. And she was following the script perfectly, and she was dead. So obviously there was something wrong with the script, and it kind of, along with everything else that was going on, it spun me into a pretty deep depressive place for about 2 years. And near the end of it, I just didn't like how I was becoming. I was becoming quite mean to people. I was being manipulative. And I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And I actually got to the point where I thought I wanted to kill myself because I hated what I was seeing so much, but I couldn't think of a nice way to do it that wouldn't be messy for the person who would find me. And in sort of the midst of that, on like, I think the day after my birthday, that's when the video on Egyptian pyramid building came on TV. Just found it by accident. I saw that video and I said, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what my life is supposed to be. And it's like the depression ended, the low energy ended, and it was like immediately I was charged with a purpose. And I spent 10 years studying ancient Egypt, the Maya, the Inca. That's what I did for a large portion of time 10 years ago, as well as then testing reality. That's how it started for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry you went through that. I've thought about not very seriously about taking my own life and like, how would I do it? And I just can't bring myself to do it. There's no easy, seems like there's no easy way. But no, I'm not thinking along those lines, but, maybe after reading your book, I will, though, because it was pretty depressing. I'm just kidding. Just a little comedy there.
No, that's a good point, because a lot of people, when they read the book or when they hear my interviews, might say, you're sounding really negative. The stuff you're saying is negative. And actually, I think I'm very positive, because the end result of the work and the study is the finding of your true power, the finding of what we really are, the finding of the deepest intensity that we shine with. The problem is we're covered with so much garbage, so many lies, so many walls, so many hidden things, and those are hard to break through. The lies and deceptions are so well built that you can't get through them kind of nicely. You have to push a bit on those. So that's what it sounds negative, but the end result of it, if you get through to the end of what I talk about or what the book is about, it's actually quite a positive ending. It's just, a lot of people don't like the trip.
Yeah, a lot of my audience, I originally based most of my channel off of Tom Campbell's MBT theory, Dr. Newton's Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, that kind of idea, or those kind of ideas. Do you have experience with those ideas? Do you know who Tom Campbell is and Dr. Michael Newton? Have you looked into that?
Yeah, like Tom Campbell really surprises me, because, chapter 3 of my book, I go through various, I don't want to call them creation myths, but ideas of creation. And I'll get to that in a second. But one of them is Robert Monroe's. Robert Monroe, I talk about his chapter 12 of Far Journeys, where he talks about Lush and the entire farming of everything, not just humans, but the farming of everything in this world. And what I find so strange was that Robert Monroe, once he had written that book in 1971, I think he said he went through a 3-month depression, and he didn't come out of his house. He like literally locked himself away. Then he came out. He began the Monroe Institute. It's like this massive out-of-body research center. Yep. He's never talked about this again. The research center has never talked about Lush again. And Tom Campbell, who's very connected to this whole thing, and he wrote all those big toe books, he never talks about it either. So it's not even like, which I find really, really strange. It's not even like they come out and say, yeah, this is a big subject in Robert Monroe's book, and we don't talk about it now. We don't focus on it because, and give an answer. They refuse to speak about it. And to me, it's like one of the most important reveals almost in human history. So that right away concerns me. Why don't they want to talk about it anymore?
Have you looked into the West Penra papers?
Yeah, I looked into those too. And again, I have concerns with some of the presentation and some of it's so, this material is so difficult. I mean, I have to come right out and say, I don't know what's going to happen after we die for sure. I don't know for sure how to exit the matrix. I'm working on, at least for myself, that's really what the book is for. The book is like a manual for me, and all those it helps beyond me, that's like an extra added bonus. I'm so happy people like it and getting value out of it. But so I don't know for sure who or what created this reality. But after 25 years of this now, and my own experiences and the people I've you might say had as teachers on the way, it's a thesis that I'm presenting. it's a piece of puzzle. And I look to others for, do they have other pieces that can fit? Wes, I had some concerns with, just because I thought there were too many things that were, how's the way to say this? They felt a bit unverifiable. Like there was no way to really test what he was saying. It's like you either had to agree with it or not, but there wasn't like this extra, and here's how you can check it for yourself. So that's why I've kind of 50-50 there with him.
Yeah, and I didn't get to read your full book. You sent it to me. Thank you. I read the first chapter, the introduction, and I did get, I got a lot of information. I wrote out like all these notes here. I don't know if people can see them, but these are all quotes from your book, and I have questions. So one of the things that you say in the book, and then I think it's chapter 1, he said, this book is going to be radical to the extreme and heretical to its core. Nothing is sacred or off limits for examination, because if everything we have been told is a lie, then we have no foundation. And some people are watching this interview right now. They're still wondering, what do you believe? You first believed, right? Going back to the early times of your spiritual journey, you did believe that God is good and that we are here for reincarnation. Karma is a real thing, and we come back and live the same life over and over to try to learn. And maybe eventually we can escape it, like the Buddhists say, but where do we go? This just leads down a whole rabbit hole here, but I just want to open up the floor to you and just respond to what I've just said.
Yeah, that's the standard story. I think we all grow up with that foundation one way or another. It doesn't matter whether we come through a religion or not, is that this world is created by some sort of loving creator. This creator cares about us and has created a place where we learn and we grow and we gain experiences. And in fact, we have potential endless experiences that we can control and not control. And our goal is to in some way perfect ourselves so that we can rejoin this heavenly source. That's kind of the simple presentation. As I started to go through my life, of course, my life was pretty difficult. I had a lot of people I was close to had very difficult lives. So there was a lot of questioning into that segment. I never really believed, even through all of my work with the native medicine men and Mr. Park from Korea, I never really believed in reincarnation for a long part of my life. I didn't disbelieve it either, but I had too many people who would say, I was Cleopatra, I was Napoleon, and you just kind of, but it's only been in the last like 7 or 8 years when I started to look into the experiences of young children specifically, and the verifiable information that they're giving about a life that they just should have no knowledge about. Right. I'm sure you've heard that. I've told this a couple of times, but it's an amazing story of a kid, 4 or 5 years old, somewhere in Texas, who didn't like the name his parents was using, and said, "No, this is my name. This is where I live. This is my wife. What are you doing to me?" And they finally they checked in that city. They found there was a woman by that name, and they said, "We're going to shut our kid up." So they took him in the car, and this will end it. He went and he sat down with a chair, and first thing, "Where's my guitar? Where's my guitar?" "Well, it's just in the bedroom. Obviously, I don't use it." "Well, get my guitar out." And the kid starts playing the guitar. And how does the kid know how to play the guitar? Then, "Well, where's my book? Where's this book? Where's this book?" "Well, I gave that away. Well, do you still have this one?" "Yeah." "Is it still my notes on the pages? 'Cause I made a lot of notes in that book." "Yeah, here's the book." Yeah. I've still got the notes. And the parents were just, they didn't know what to believe. And in fact, they came to the conclusion, this is obviously the dead husband of this wife. There's no way they can know each other. So I got to that point. To finally answer your question, I started over time more and more beginning to start thinking like the Gnostics did, or the Cathars did, or even the ancient Egyptians or many others, that actually this is not a loving creator who created this realm, that there is a true force or an absolute force out there, but there was, depending on the mythology, was a break from that, and a new being came about, known as the Demiurge to Gnostics, Rex Mundi to the Cathars. They are the creator of this realm, and this realm is actually a simulated copy of truth, designed to trick we can call them divine sparks, not really souls. We trick divine sparks, which is us, to come in here. And then once we're in, we become like a giant battery, a giant power source to make this run. And I know it sounds like a bit like the Matrix, but that's one of the truths that's in that movie, that because it makes sense. If let's pretend this is a giant computer realm, if this is like a giant computer, the amount of energy that's needed to run it, because we're not just talking this part of Plato's cave, the material realm, we're talking the etheric, the astral, the super astral, the angel, whatever. That's a huge amount of energy that's required. It would make sense, it would be smart if you could use the beings in your computer game to be the ones that generated the power to keep the game running. And I think that's what we've got going here. There's, in a sense, we're called food for the system or whatever, but it's really we're here to be energy to actually keep the system running, and the rest of the system is designed to kind of trick us to not make us see that.
Yeah, I know you do say in your book that you're 99.9% sure that reincarnation exists. I definitely believe it exists. I've seen a lot of proof for it. Based on what you just said, I can go down several different trails, but it just makes me think. You said that humans are like batteries, very similar to the Matrix movie. If that's so, what does it say about our world that the population has been increasing so drastically in the last 120 years? In 1900, the population was about 2 billion. Now we're coming up on, what is it, 7, 8 billion?
8, 9, almost
9
maybe.
billion, right? Just going to keep going up.
Who knows?
Does
But
that
who
mean
knows?
it's more power for the system? Are they entrapping more? Is the demiurge entrapping more souls in it? Is it more
No,
powerful?
I think it's the opposite. I think the same number of souls, this is just my personal opinion. I don't think the number of souls here have changed at all over the last few thousand years. What we're seeing is more and more what you would call non-player characters. You're seeing more and more robots being created to make bigger populations, bigger, in a sense, to have more conflicts, to have more problems, to have more difficulties. The more people you have, the larger things get, the more complex it gets. Combination of not only do you then the people at the top actually have an easier time with the control structures, you also have more possibilities of problems and fear. Because if you grow up in a small town or village with 100 people, you know everybody. And by the time you're 10 years old, you got the town figured out. You know what's going on. But you live in New York City where you got 20 million. There's always somebody around some other corner that's, to be scared of, to be frightened of, to be, So I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing more and more what I would call non-player characters. What I think is interesting, because now we are coming to the Great Reset, and they're not using these words by accident. This is very clear why they're choosing these words. This realm is getting reset. People like to think of it, it's a government reset. It's a monetary reset. When you think of it, it's energetic. And it's happened before. This has happened other times in our past. So this is going to be reset energetically, because I think for some reason the system is getting bigger. The computer game is getting bigger. The simulations increasing. There's the same amount of power coming in. They need to increase the power, but like you say, they don't have more souls to come in here. So how are they going to increase the power? They've got to change the structure. And I think that's what's really going on. I think if you see what's going to be coming, I know it is coming in terms of energy, it'll start to make sense. It'll also explain how we as individual people who don't want to be a part of it, how we are able to start breaking away from it, because it's also about energy. It's also about the control of our energy and understanding how energy works in this system. So when we see things energetically, I think we get a doorway to an opportunity to understand what we should be doing.
You're sounding very much like Jason Brashears of the Archaics channel. Are you familiar with him?